In the heart of 15th century France, when kingdoms trembled under the weight of war, a teenage girl would rise a peasant, inspired by voices from heaven, who would lead armies, defy kings, and change the course of history forever. This is the extraordinary story of Joan of Arc, the warrior saint who stood against the might of nations, and whose faith would lead her to both triumph and tragedy. Joan of Arc was born on January 6, 1412, in the small village of Domremy, in northeastern France. The daughter of simple farmers, Joan was raised in a pious Catholic household during one of France's most turbulent times, the 100 Years' War. The war between France and England had devastated the land, and France's future as a kingdom seemed uncertain. From a young age, Joan exhibited a deep devotion to her faith, but nothing about her upbringing hinted that she would one day become a military leader. Her destiny, however, was far from ordinary. At the age of 13, Joan began to experience extraordinary visions. She described hearing the voices of saints, that most notably Saint Michael the Archangel, Saint Catherine of Alexandria, and Saint Margaret of Antioch. These voices, she said, called her to a divine mission to save France from its enemies and restore the rightful heir, Charles VII, to the throne. Though young and inexperienced, Joan's unwavering faith convinced her that this mission was her sacred duty. Despite the skepticism she faced, her belief in her calling was unshakable. By 1429, Joan, now 17, left her home and traveled to the royal court to meet the Dauphin, Charles VII. Dressed as a man to avoid attention, she made her way to the court, determined to fulfill her heavenly mission. Against all odds, she was granted an audience with Charles, and her sincerity and conviction moved him. She was given command of a small army to lift the Siege of Orléans, a key battle in the 100 Years' War. Incredibly, this teenage peasant girl with no military experience would inspire and lead seasoned soldiers into battle. Under her leadership, French forces triumphed and Orléans was liberated. Joan's victory turned the tide of the war and revived the hope of a nation that had been on the brink of collapse. With the success at Orléans, Joan's reputation as the Maid of Orléans spread across France. She continued to lead the French army in a series of victories, paving the way for Charles VII's coronation at the Cathedral of Reims. On July 17, 1429, Charles was crowned King of France, fulfilling Joan's prophecy and divine mission. For Joan, this moment was the culmination of her divine calling, but her mission was not yet complete. After the coronation, Joan continued to fight for France, but political factions within the court and the enduring conflict with the English would soon lead to her downfall. In May 1430, Joan was captured by the Burgundians, French allies of the English, during a battle near Compiègne. Betrayed and sold to the English, she was imprisoned and put on trial. Her trial was a political and ecclesiastical spectacle. The English, threatened by her success and the inspiration she provided to the French people, charged her with heresy, witchcraft, and dressing like a man. Though Joan defended herself with remarkable intelligence and courage, she was ultimately found guilty. On May 30th, 1431, Joan of Arc was burned at the stake in Rouen. At the age of 19, her last words were, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus," as she perished in the flames. She died a martyr, but her death did not extinguish her legacy. In fact, it only grew stronger. The French people viewed her as a martyr for their cause, and in 1456, 25 years after her death, Pope Calixtus III declared her trial null and void, exonerating her of all charges. Centuries after her death, Joan's legacy continued to inspire generations. On May 16, 1920, nearly 500 years after her martyrdom, Pope Benedict V canonized Joan of Arc as a saint of the Roman Catholic Church. She became a symbol of faith, courage, and national pride, not just for the people of France, but for Catholics around the world. Joan of Arc's story is not just one of faith and war. It is a testament to the power of conviction and the extraordinary role that a single individual can play in the course of history. Today, Joan of Arc is remembered as the teenage warrior who defied the might of nations, followed her faith to the very end, and became one of the most revered saints in history. Her courage in the face of overwhelming odds, her dedication to her divine calling, and her ultimate sacrifice for her people ensure that her story will be told for generations to come. This is the legacy of Saint Joan of Arc, the warrior, the martyr, the saint. Thank you for watching this episode of Chronicles of Saints. Be sure to subscribe to learn more about the saints who shaped the history of the Church. Join us next time as we explore the life of another inspiring figure who left a lasting impact on the world.